Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Friday Lunch. Let's start that over. Hello, my name is Tina Holland. Welcome to First Friday Lunch. I go ahead and I host this YouTube video every first Friday of the month from 11:30 to around noon. Sometimes we go longer if we get a large crowd and there's lots of questions. And then for like a half hour, and I talk about writing, what's going on in my life, and those sorts of things. So let's get right down to it. I am Tina Holland. As I said, I'm a romance author. I've published most recently Gaslamp Fantasy, which is like Steampunk's Fairy Cousin, and Regency. So I've been pretty busy this month. October is always a busy month for me. I just had a birthday and at the end of October. So another year around the sun for me. And I did a signing last night at Folkways Bazaar at Brewhalla, which is a brewing company or whatever. I did that last night. So I got home, and even though it was relatively early when I got home, I think I got home at like 9:45 or something like that. My dogs were tired, my feet were tired. So I had this costume I was gonna wear, and then I like went to put it on. I've worn it like, I don't know, 8 years running, and it would not fit. And I was like, oh crap. So I had to kind of put something together last minute-ish. So this just goes to tell you, if you have plans to wear stuff, go ahead and try stuff on. So that's kind of personally. I got my furnace fixed, for those of you that have been following since spring and knew my furnace was out. And a guy came out and he fixed it super, super cheap, like way cheaper than I thought. We were that new furnace, right? And it was just an electrical situation, which was beyond my capabilities. So it worked out all right. So that's kind of what's going on personal. As I said, I've kind of had a busy October. I did not a lot of signings, but the signings I did do were pretty good. But a lot of hours on my feet, which I'm not really used to, even when I worked professionally. When I had a job, I never had like a stand on your job all day feet. So stand on your feet all day job. That's better, isn't it? That's the way that sentence should go. So it was a little, it's a little like, in my older age, it's a little harder on my knees and my legs. And as a matter of fact, I went in and had a massage because maybe like the week before I was on my feet for 4 hours straight, which I'm not used to doing at all. And I went in and I have one leg that's just a tish longer than the other one because I broke my growth plate when I was a teenager doing something on the monkey bars. And for those of you that don't know what monkey bars are, just Google it and you'll find out. But everyone of my generation probably knows what monkey bars are. And I did like a spin flip thing, fell off, landed wrong, broke my growth plates, and I have one foot that is a little bit smaller than the others. So, and it swells, and the other one swells. It's like even big. It's even like bigger than the other leg. So, ironically, the broken leg looks better, but whenever I stand, because my feet are slightly off, I went into my massage therapist and she goes, "Oh yeah, you're crooked." So she was like, looked at me because I'm laying down on the table. And she goes, "Oh yeah, you're twisted. I can tell." And I was like, "Oh great." So she put all the muscles back where they needed to go, and I'll go see her again and get back to like regular massage appointments as we move into the non-working months for us. So that's kind of what I've got going on there. November, I am going to be going to Author Nation in Las Vegas. So I'm pretty excited about that. This is my first year going, and I may have made an error because I'm also volunteering just to kind of get to know people. That's kind of a thing that I do because then don't have like all this downtime. So we'll see how that part of it goes. I'm hoping I'm not volunteering a super lot, but I'm like, I can't do rave because I signed up to do rave. So I can't work. That's like one time I can't work. So yeah. So, and ironically, they're gonna pay the volunteers, which I was totally not expecting. So that'll be kind of nice. So cover some of my costs. Anyway, so that's kind of what I've got going on. And then we've got Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving coming up this month. We do not typically do anything anymore unless my daughter down in the cities hosts something. that's the only thing we might go to. If she doesn't, we're just going to hang out at home. We make a huge turkey for multiple people and we eat it for days. So actually what happened like years ago, we had a Thanksgiving where we had a huge snowstorm like down by the between us and the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's what we call it when we live up here. We call it the Twin Cities. So there was a storm basically between us, and so we got up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're like planning to go down to see my husband's sister, and it's just storming, or his mother. I don't remember who was hosting, but his whole family kind of lives down there, and so we were going to go down there and got the kids up. We're all up. We're kind of watching the news, and I'm like, I don't know. Stuff's not closing, but it's kind of no travel advisory. We have no travel advisories, and then we have no travel, which is basically they literally close the interstates up here because of either wind. Usually it's wind related because the wind is so high. It's kind of like a dust storm, only with snow. So they'll close stuff down. And so we were like, should we go? Should we not go? Should we blah, blah? And I remember my husband, I said, well, call your sister, Tia, that's his favorite sister. So I said, call her and see if she's going to go. And he calls her and she's like, I'm not going anywhere. And she doesn't live in the cities, but she lives around that area. And she's like, I'm not going. And he goes, okay, we're not going. And so I already had the turkey thawing because we are going to have it like Friday or Saturday. And I already had the turkey thawing. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and I will just make this turkey and we'll eat that today. So we went ahead and put the turkey in so it would be ready around noon or noonish or so. I think it ended up being like 1:30 or something like that. But put in this huge turkey and made all the fixins, right? And I remember we're watching like the Macy's Day Parade and we got the turkey going and my husband's like, this is the best Thanksgiving ever. Because he didn't have to cook anything and we're just staying. We didn't have to drive anywhere. And so unless like I said, our daughter is hosting, we don't usually go anywhere. It's just the two of us and we like literally make a turkey and then have leftovers for pretty much the weekend through the weekend. So which works out pretty well. So those are my big plans for November, Author Nation and Thanksgiving, however that ends up. The topic that I have, some of you may have already gotten the newsletter. I'll put a link down that in the comment section below. But one of the things that I discussed in the newsletter was normally and typically November is considered National Novel Writing Month. And Nano has kind of fallen by the wayside with the predatory claims last year. And then also their position on AI this year, many people have become disenfranchised with Nano. And so they're looking for other ways to write a novel in the month of November. So there are a number of organizations that are doing stuff. I know Sarah Cannon with Heart Breathings is doing something very similar to Nano. So if you participated in Nano and liked like the badge system and all that, she's doing something very similar to that. One of the things that I liked about Nano were the write-ins. So, and also with Heart Breathings, you can do write-ins virtually. I suspect that some of the libraries, you could probably still check with your libraries and bookstores, or if there was a group that was writing for Nano doing write-ins last year, they're probably still doing it because I know many of the groups that were with Nano have left Nano. And now I think it might depend on like money wise, if they had the money or capability to like leave the Nano site, if they're able to run their own site, or if they're able to run their own group through like Meetup or Discord or any of the other social media sites, Facebook. And I think they probably left. So if you wrote with a group of people last year, you'd probably be able to write with them again this year. I found that write-ins are the best way for me to get stuff done because there is a little bit of accountability when you're writing with people. I'm in a writing group called Romance Writers Club, which is just for romance writers, but we do a Zoom call, and there are a number of organizations that do a Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. I find that works a little bit better for me than a lot of the YouTubers that will do stuff. But if you're kind of like, I don't want people to see my face or whatever, or maybe you're doing plotting, not writing, or something like that, you could go ahead and join any number, like literally go on to YouTube and Google like author tube write-ins or stuff like that. So, and you'll probably find groups. Same thing with Facebook. I think there's a few that do it on Facebook, but I like the interchange in the break session where you have like writing, and then you'll have a break and you'll either talk about what you're writing, or maybe you're talking about plot issues or just general questions about writing. So I kind of like that interaction. One of the things that Writers and Garden is doing is we're doing what is called Win with Writers and Garden, and all it means is write in November. And we had a discussion on whether or not we would do more write-ins. Currently, what we do right now is we have a Monday creative commute, we call it, from basically 6 to 7, not quite, but 6 to 7 every Monday. And what we'll do is we write for 15 minutes, we have a minute break, and then we write for another 15 minutes. We usually get 3 15-minute sessions in, and we start roughly, we say 6, but most people are all there by 6:05. So that's kind of when we start. So that will give us enough time to get 15-minute sprints in, and then have not even really a discussion, kind of more of a stretch or break period. So, and if you're anything like me and you pound the keys, you probably need to be doing some of this and some of this and stretching out your hands and so forth. So that's kind of what we've got going on. And that will be pretty helpful. I do a thing, I keep a spreadsheet of my writing. So I was trying to decide what my goal was going to be for the month of November. And I think it's going to be, if I get it done, it's going to be to finish this Regency romance, How to Love a Lord, which is book 2 in the BAD series. BAD stands for Bold and Adventurous Debutante series. And I already did, if you follow Sarah Cannon, I already did the breakdown of how many days I have to write. And with Author Nation and Thanksgiving and the election, I broke it down to having like 19 days of writing, and I have 25,717 words to get in to kind of finish the rough draft or finish the book. And so in doing that math, I came up with 1,360 words that I have to write every day, but I'd like to write like 14 or more, 1,400 or more, to kind of build that cushion. Because a lot of people write pretty strong, even at the beginning of November. And then as we get closer to the holiday, I'd be surprised at the number of people that are able to write through the holiday, like after Thanksgiving. American Thanksgiving. If you're outside the US, it's probably not as big of a deal, unless you have something similar or a similar holiday that kind of breaks it up or whatever. And the idea that you can write more. And I think this is a pretty good, because I actually like didn't even count this weekend, which I might get some writing in. But if I can get just to the rough draft, and my rough draft is like 45,000 because it's a shorter work. Might get to 50, but I tend to write shorter novels, like in that 45 to 50,000 range. So I think my longest one is, I think Courtesan is 55. Maybe it might even be like 58. I'd have to go and look, but I don't tend to write super long. And that was like a huge rewrite too. So I think the second book, which was less of a rewrite, I kind of knew where I was going and what the plot was. Because once you write in series, you kind of establish there's less things to have to figure out. Like there's less like, what are the rules? And in magic areas, which Gaslamp Fantasy is, there's less to figure out in book 2. So I think a lot of times for me, book 2s end up being shorter. And then if it's depending on how long the series is going to be, book 3, if it's like stopping at book 3, that can be pretty chunky, or it can be short like book 2 if you've got like up to 5. But I always find like the first book and the last book seem to be the longest in a series. So we'll see. I'd like to, I mean, if this if this novel hits like over 50,000 words, I'll be impressed. But I'm just like, without going into the other like I've got sub characters or supporting cast or whatever, and they have books coming up. Without getting into their story too much, I'm trying to leave like breadcrumbs for the reader, but without getting into their story too much. It's it's going to be, no, it won't require as many words, I guess, is what I was saying. Although, ironically, I was like doing some plotting because I had to do some character background stuff. And a lot of times you'll know things about your characters that will never make it into the book. And Pierce is the hero of the second book. And I was doing some kind of research on him, not like research like who he is as a person, but as he, like, how did he become who he is, right? And so in doing that, I kind of did some research, and then was in my research brain, like doing his character arc sort of thing, I came up with a story for his parents. I don't know if I'll write it, but I wrote it, but I don't know if I'll publish it. It might end up being a free read in my newsletter. So it's it has a happy for now ending. So, because by the time you get to Pierce's book, you'll know that it didn't end super great, but yeah, it might be a happy for now ending. So, which I might give away to readers, but I don't know that it falls within romance person. Maybe it does because it's happy for now, but yeah, so I came up with that character arc, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. So I did that too with Miles' parents. I have a whole story for them as well, because and it's kind of written like this happened and then this happened, and it's not like necessarily in story format, but you've just got that character arc. So how much of it will come on the page in Pierce's story, I don't know, because I was sort of thinking about having him read letters from his father to his mother and see how that progressed. So yeah, so my goal is to basically get that done, and I was kind of going through and mapping out how many words do I need to write a day in order to reach that goal. And if I wrote 1,400 words a day, I mean, 1,360 will get me there. 14 would get me over, which is nice because sometimes you don't know what you're going to end up with on the cutting room floor, so to speak. So I don't like to cut stuff, but I do, especially if it's not advancing the plot. So I end up writing a lot about what people are wearing, that sometimes, like, even even in courtesan, you know exactly what everybody's wearing. But I sort of think that with steampunk and maybe with historical in general, a reader wants to know what the character's wearing. I try not to go too much into description of characters. I kind of let the reader picture who they want there. I mean, I'll do a general, like, blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair, black hair, brown eyes, that kind of thing. Height, maybe height, like he was taller than her, but um, not be very specific and how tall. So those are some of the things that I'll put in there, but I kind of like to leave it up to the reader's imagination. So I was trying to see where we were at for time. I guess we're not that far into it. So, we're like 18 minutes, 20 minutes in. So I just double check and make sure that nobody has any questions, but probably not. I didn't check the date too. I'm normally really good about checking the date for the next Friday, and I didn't do it. So I will do it and check it here. So papers are falling. I just, like, you can't tell because you guys see it's kind of the same spot, but I just put a carpet, and I have a new chair. I have like my old office chair. I could have told you that at the beginning of the thing. I have an old office chair, and it is that I purchased from my corporate job. Or maybe they gave them away to us. I don't remember. That's November. That's not going to help us. So apologize if you guys are hearing the thing. Let's see. So our next Friday lunch will be December 6th. So go ahead and pencil me in for lunch.